You're about to unlock something most men will never figure out. The psychological secret that separates the guys women. Forget the moment they walk away from the ones who occupy their thoughts for months, even years after a single conversation. All this time you've been trying to impress her, trying to prove your worth, trying to be the perfect gentleman she supposedly wants. But here's the brutal truth. The guy she can't stop thinking about isn't the one who gave her everything. He's the one who gave her just enough to keep her wondering what else he's hiding. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to become that guy, the one who lives rent-free in her mind long after everyone else has been forgotten. Picture this. You're at a party, and there's this woman who's clearly the center of attention. Every guy there is orbiting around her like planets around the sun, buying her drinks, laughing too hard at her jokes, competing for scraps of her validation. Then there's one guy in the corner, barely acknowledging her existence. He's not trying to get her attention. He's not even looking in her direction. And guess what? She can't take her eyes off him. 3 weeks later, she's still asking her friends, "Who was that guy in the corner? Do you have his number?" This isn't some fairy tale. This is female psychology at its most primal level. Women are wired to be attracted to what they can't easily obtain, what remains mysterious, what challenges their ability to figure someone out completely. When you hand over all your cards in the first conversation, when you tell her how amazing she is, when you text her immediately after getting her number, when you make yourself completely available, you're not being romantic, you're being predictable. And predictable is the kiss of death when it comes to attraction. The guy she can't stop thinking about understands something fundamental about human nature. We value what we have to work for. We obsess over what remains partially hidden. We chase what seems just out of reach. While every other man is trying to prove he's worthy of her attention, he's making her prove she's worthy of his. This isn't about being cruel or manipulative. It's about understanding that attraction isn't logical. It's emotional. It's psychological. And it operates on principles that most people are too afraid to acknowledge. Think about your own life for a moment. What are you still thinking about from last year? Is it the person who texted you every day, who was always available, who made their interest painfully obvious? Or is it the one who kept you guessing, who had layers you never quite peeled back, who seemed to have a rich inner world you were only occasionally invited into? The answer is obvious, but most men are terrified to apply this truth to their own dating lives because it requires them to act in ways that feel counterintuitive. Here's where most guys get it completely wrong. They think being mysterious means being distant or cold. They think creating intrigue means playing games or being fake. But the man who truly captivates a woman's mind isn't pretending to be interesting. He actually is interesting. He's not pretending to have options. He's genuinely someone who could have options. He's not faking confidence. He's built real confidence through experiences, challenges, and self-development that most men are too lazy or scared to pursue. The difference between him and everyone else isn't what he says to her. It's who he is when she's not around. While other men are structuring their entire lives around getting female attention, he's building something that would be impressive whether women noticed or not. He has genuine passions that consume his time and energy. He has standards that he won't compromise, even for a beautiful woman. He has a vision for his life that's bigger than any single relationship. This isn't an act he puts on to attract women. This is the foundation that makes attraction inevitable. When she's talking to him, she's not getting the usual script. She's not hearing the same compliments every other guy has given her. She's not dealing with someone who's trying to figure out what she wants to hear. Instead, she's encountering someone who has his own opinions, his own worldview, his own standards. He might disagree with her about something. He might challenge something she says. He might even, and this is crucial, seem like he's evaluating whether she meets his standards rather than desperately hoping he meets hers. This creates something most men never experience: genuine curiosity from a woman. Instead of her trying to let him down easy or politely extract herself from the conversation, she finds herself wanting to know more. What makes him tick? What's his story? Why doesn't he seem impressed by the things that usually impress men? Why does he seem so comfortable with the possibility that this interaction might not go anywhere? The psychological principle at work here is called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. When you get a reward every time you pull a slot machine lever, you quickly lose interest. But when the reward comes unpredictably, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Your brain becomes obsessed with pulling that lever. The guy she can't stop thinking about provides intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes he's warm and engaging. Sometimes he's focused on other things. Sometimes he gives her his full attention. Sometimes he seems like he's got somewhere else to be. This isn't about being manipulative. It's about being authentic to a life that's genuinely full and interesting. When you have real passions, real goals, real friendships, and real standards, you naturally become less available. You naturally become more selective about who gets your time and energy. You naturally become someone who can't be easily categorized or predicted. And that drives people, especially attractive women who are used to being the center of attention, absolutely crazy with curiosity. Most men make the mistake of thinking that showing intense interest early on will make them more attractive. They think that being completely available will make them seem caring. They think that agreeing with everything she says will make them seem compatible. But what this actually communicates is that they don't have much else going on in their lives, that their standards are low enough that they're willing to reshape themselves for any attractive woman who gives them attention. The man who becomes unforgettable does the opposite. He has genuine reactions to things. If she says something he finds boring, his energy drops slightly. Not because he's trying to punish her, but because boring things genuinely affect his energy. If she says something that genuinely interests him, he lights up, not because he's trying to reward her, but because interesting things naturally energize him. She never quite knows which version of him she's going to get, because he's not performing a character, he's being a real person with real responses. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're having a conversation with her, and she mentions something that everyone usually pretends to find fascinating. Maybe her job in marketing, or her recent trip to Europe, or her opinions about some trending topic. Instead of the usual, "Oh wow, that's so interesting" response she's used to, you give her your honest reaction. Maybe you say, "Honestly, I've never understood the appeal of backpacking through Europe. It seems like people do it because they think they're supposed to, not because they actually want to." This isn't mean it's real. It's an actual opinion from an actual person, not a calculated response designed to make her like you. What happens next separates the men from the boys. Most guys would immediately backtrack the moment they see her reaction. "I mean, I'm sure your trip was amazing. I didn't mean to sound negative." But the guy who lives in her thoughts doesn't apologize for having an opinion. He doesn't soften his edges to make her more comfortable. He might even double down. "I'm more interested in people who do things because they genuinely want to, not because Instagram told them it would look good." Now she's in completely uncharted territory. No one talks to her like this. No one challenges her assumptions about herself and her choices. This is where the real psychology kicks in. Her brain starts working overtime trying to figure him out. Is he rejecting her? Is he testing her? Is he just honest to a fault? She's used to men who mirror her energy, who agree with her perspectives, who make themselves smaller to make her feel bigger. But this guy takes up space. He has edges. He's not mean, but he's not soft either. He's like a puzzle she can't quite solve, and her mind becomes obsessed with solving it. Here's the crucial distinction. He's not doing this to manipulate her. He's doing this because he's genuinely secure in who he is. He knows that not every woman will appreciate his directness, his opinions, his way of seeing the world, and he's okay with that. In fact, he prefers it. He'd rather have a few people genuinely connect with the real him than have everyone mildly approve of some watered-down version he's performing. This level of authenticity is terrifying to most men because it requires them to risk rejection. It's so much safer to be agreeable, to be what you think she wants, to minimize the chances that she'll walk away. But safety is the enemy of attraction. When you play it safe, you blend into the background with every other safe guy she's encountered. When you risk being disliked for who you really are, you create the possibility of being genuinely desired for who you really are. Interested in it. The man she can't stop thinking about has mastered something most people never learn. The difference between being liked and being respected. Being liked is easy, just agree with everything, laugh at all her jokes, tell her what she wants to hear. But being respected requires you to have boundaries, standards, opinions that don't shift based on who you're talking to. And here's the secret. Respect creates deeper, more lasting attraction than being liked ever could. When she's alone later, thinking about her interactions from the day, the agreeable guys blur together. They were nice enough, sure, but there was nothing memorable about them. They didn't challenge her, didn't surprise her, didn't make her feel anything particularly strong one way or another. But the guy who had his own thoughts, his own standards, his own way of seeing the world, he sticks out. She finds herself replaying conversations with him, wondering what he meant by certain comments, curious about what he thinks about things she never considered before. This is why the nice guy approach fails so spectacularly. It's not that women don't like nice men, it's that being nice without being interesting, without being challenging, without being genuine, creates no emotional impact whatsoever. Nice is forgettable. Nice is safe. Nice is what you are to people you don't particularly care about one way or another. But the people who occupy your thoughts, who you find yourself wanting to understand better, who create some kind of emotional response in you, they're never just nice. The guy who becomes unforgettable understands that emotions create memories, and memories create obsession. Every other man she meets falls into predictable patterns. They compliment her appearance within the first few minutes. They ask the same boring questions about her job and hobbies. They laugh too enthusiastically at things that aren't particularly funny. They text her immediately after getting her number with some variation of "great meeting you tonight." But him? He's operating from a completely different playbook because he's not trying to win her approval. He's deciding whether she's worth his continued interest. This shift in dynamic is psychological dynamite. She's accustomed to being the prize, the one being pursued, the one whose attention men compete for. But suddenly she's encountering someone who seems genuinely unbothered by whether she likes him or not. He's not rude about it, he's just secure enough in his own value that her approval doesn't feel like life or death to him. This creates something she rarely experiences, the feeling of needing to prove herself worthy of someone else's attention. Interested, when he does text her, it's not desperate or try hard. It might be days later. It might reference something genuinely interesting that reminded him of their conversation. Not some generic "hope you're having a great day" message that screams "I have nothing better to do than think about you." When they make plans, he suggests something he actually wants to do, not something he thinks will impress her. If she can't make it, he doesn't immediately offer alternative dates like he's running a customer service department. He might just say, "Another time then," and actually mean it. This behavior drives women absolutely insane, in the best possible way. She starts analyzing every interaction, looking for clues about how he really feels about her. She finds herself putting more effort into her appearance when she knows she might see him. She catches herself checking her phone more often, hoping for a message from him. She starts asking mutual friends about him, trying to piece together information about his dating history, his interests, his opinions about things. The irony is devastating. By not chasing her, he's made her chase him. By not being available whenever she wants attention, he's made his attention more valuable to her. By not telling her how amazing she is every 5 minutes, he's made her wonder if he thinks she's amazing at all, and that uncertainty becomes intoxicating. But here's what most men miss when they try to implement this approach. It only works if it's coming from a place of genuine abundance and self-respect, not from a place of manipulation or artificial scarcity. You can't fake this mindset. If you're pretending to be busy while actually sitting at home waiting for her to text, she'll sense the desperation underneath the act. If you're disagreeing with her just to be contrarian rather than expressing genuine opinions, she'll feel the manipulation and lose interest immediately. The man who truly becomes unforgettable has built a life so genuinely interesting and fulfilling that he doesn't need any particular woman to complete it. He has passions that consume his time and energy. He has goals that he's actively working toward. He has friends who challenge him and experiences that shape him. He has standards, not just for women but for everyone in his life, that he won't compromise because maintaining his integrity is more important to him than being liked. This is why self-improvement isn't just about becoming more attractive to women, it's about becoming someone whose natural way of being creates attraction without effort or manipulation. When you're genuinely busy building something meaningful, you naturally become less available. When you're genuinely passionate about your pursuits, you naturally become more interesting. When you genuinely respect yourself, you naturally develop standards that others feel compelled to meet. The woman who can't stop thinking about you isn't obsessing over some technique you used or some line you delivered perfectly. She's obsessing over the feeling she gets when she's around someone who seems to have figured something out that everyone else is still struggling with. She's drawn to the confidence that comes from knowing who you are and being okay with the fact that not everyone will appreciate it. She's intrigued by someone who seems to operate from internal validation rather than constantly seeking approval from others. You don't get her back by waiting. You get her back by never needing her again.